Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Help My Kid Won't Go to School. We are excited to have two presenters this morning, Sharoya Ham and Katie Fowler, presenting for us today. Sharoya Ham is a passionate behavior change specialist, author, veteran teacher, and founder of Embrace Behavior Change. She has helped hundreds of overwhelmed parents learn how to parent calmly, consistently, and confidently. She works with families whose children face educational, behavioral, and relational challenges. Sharoya has helped families overcome school refusal across 5 continents, demonstrating the global applicability of her methods. She is a sought after international parent coach who truly believes every family can create the home environment they want, one behavior change at a time. Katie Fowle is a dyslexia specialist, educator, author, and a co founder of Global Village Tutors. Through academic and social emotional skill building, Katie has empowered hundreds of students to succeed academically and feel confident in their school. Despite her professional success, Katie struggled as a mom when her daughter refused to get out of bed to go to school. She wrote her story to empower parents and inform educators. Katie resides in Fairfax County with her 2 teenage daughters, husband, and dog, Leo. We're so happy to have you both here today, and I will now turn it over to you. Thank you.
Great. Diana, thank you so much. And Shannon and Amal at the Fairfax County Family Resource Center. And I don't know about you guys, but the kids are back in school today. So that's a wonderful news. And this also had me thinking about school refusal, because this would have been a time for my daughter that would have been a real struggle. So some of you parents who may be watching this recording after the fact, we're here for you. This is why we wrote our book. And this is why we are presenting today on the topic. So as Diana mentioned, my daughter experienced school refusal, and it was one of the most complex and stressful times of my family's life. And from that experience, I want to say that we learned a set of new skills and that we have overcome school refusal. My daughter is now a freshman at Chantilly High School. And through that experience, my friend and parent coach, Shura Ham, helped me through it. And when we were through with that, as we were going through that experience, Shura and I wanted to help other parents going through it. And that's why we decided to write our book, Help My Kid Won't Go to School. So we hope today that our presentation will either affirm some of the things that you're already doing or give you new strategies as you're working with your child or the families that you're serving as a teacher or educator or support in Fairfax County. So I'm excited to hand it over to Sharia.
Hi, everybody. I am delighted to be here with you. I am sitting here in Atlanta, Georgia, where it is snowing outside and everyone is freaking out. They don't go outside. No one drives when it's snowing. So it's quite interesting. I'm originally from New Jersey, so I laugh at the people here in Georgia when it snows. I want to say a big kudos to Shannon and Diana for providing this webinar. It is a much needed topic to be talked about, but in different way, in a new and fresh way, where parents feel empowered and not depressed or feel convicted that they're doing something wrong. And so that's our goal today, is to encourage parents and also help them understand, help you understand just what's involved in getting your kid out the door and back in school. I want to let you all know that I have worked with families across the globe. And what I've noticed, that there's one characteristic that each family that has come to me has, and that is none of them have data. And I want you all to know that it takes data to crack open the mystery of why your child is resisting going to school. So it's my pleasure today to share with you some critical steps for addressing school refusal using a collaborative effort between home and school. Today, our content will be divided into 3 parts. Our part number 1 is called Fanning the Flame. and we will share some key facts about school refusal. We'll also discuss well-intentioned mistakes that parents make. I want to say that again, well-intentioned mistakes that parents actually do that fan the flames of school refusal. We are not here to blame. We are here to encourage and inform and help you change some of the things that you may be doing that actually fan the flames. In part 2, Katie will share her story to help you understand how challenging it is to find the root cause of your child's resistance to school. And I will share 2 stories from my work with parents so that you can understand how school refusal shows up differently in each family and how parents must take time to connect the dots. After part 2, we'll take a moment and have a Q&A. So you can ask us your questions, and we are looking forward to hearing what is on your mind, and we'll address those questions directly. After that, we'll go to part 3, where just what Katie said, it's all about skills. In order to get your kid going to school every single day, it takes skills, different parenting skills than you may have used in the past. Now, I want to share what we won't talk about today. And so the best way we thought to do that is to show you this infographic of an umbrella. And you'll see those raindrops, which probably we should have done snowflakes, given what's happening right now. But all of those raindrops encompass are under the umbrella of school chronic absenteeism. But you will notice on the right side, all of those raindrops are going into a bucket called school refusal. So those are things like bullying, academic struggles. But on the left side, you'll see that there's truancy, medical, social, economic barriers. Those are things we will not touch today. And those are primary things that kids have no control over. So we are dealing only with school refusal, and truancy is a thing that kids do have control over. However, we will discuss why it is not a part of school refusal in our next section called Fanning the Flames. Katie, please take that over.
Great. All right. So let's dive into part 1, Fanning the Flames, where we'll share a little bit more key facts and define school refusal. So school refusal is a global problem. One of the leading researchers in school refusal, Dr. Kearney, has defined it as a consistent struggle of a child staying in or going to school. So unlike truancy, it's not like kids just skipping class. It's a consistent struggle of a child being able to attend school or stay in school. Who is the most vulnerable for school refusal? Well, we know that children that suffer from anxiety and depression, children who are experiencing friendship and bullying issues, or children that may have an undiagnosed learning difference or have a learning or thinking difference that isn't supported in the school environment or at home. So what are some of the leading causes of school refusal? Well, we know that anxiety and depression. We know that undiagnosed learning disabilities. We know that bullying. And we also know that when children are needing to assert some more control over their life, maybe there has been a move, maybe there has been a recent divorce or remarriage, that can be one of the leading causes of school refusal. We also know that school refusal affects boys and girls equally, and that school refusal will often show up during a transition from elementary to middle and high school, or for example, after a long family trip, or as an example right now, after an extended school break, that transition back to the school environment can be a time and place where school refusal shows up. In fact, in our own family, we experienced school refusal when our daughter was in 6th, 7th, 6th and 7th grade, but it showed up again freshman year. That first day of freshman going to Chantilly High School, she's like, I'm not going. My outfit doesn't look right. I was like, oh man, I thought we were over this. So how long does it usually last? Well, it can be a chronic behavior. It can be a behavior that shows up again when there is that strong emotion and the child is trying to figure out how to handle those strong emotions. So how, as a parent, and I really appreciated how Sharoya framed this at the very beginning, we are not blaming at all parents. What we are doing is we are supporting and trying to understand this very complex problem. So in this next section, Sharoya is going to be kind of helping us as parents understand how could we be fanning the flames of our child's school refusal and not know it. Oh, Sharoya, you're muted.
I was going to say, this
Okay.
is my favorite part of
Okay.
the presentation, just to kind of help parents unload some of the pressure. Because one of the key factors, or some of the really things that affect school refusal, are when our children are struggling in school. And so I want to say to anyone who perhaps the school teachers have recommended that your child be evaluated, and you haven't done it, clearly because you go, well, I don't want my kid to be labeled, or I don't see what they see, and I don't think that they should be labeled. And I get that. But I want to give you a kind of an analogy to kind of help you understand the importance of having a psychoeducational evaluation if the teacher or counselor suggests it. One is that, imagine that if you were a supervisor and you had 2 employees and they were constantly using the restroom, and you wonder what in the world is happening. But you notice they're actually going to the restroom to use it. And finally, you just say, enough. You 2 need to go to the doctors and find out, why are you going to the restroom so much? And they come back to you and they say, you go, well, what did the doctor say? And they say, well, my doctor told me that I have a urine infection. And the other person goes, well, I found out I have diabetes. Do you understand that both of them had the symptoms, the same symptoms, but yet the cause for them going to the bathroom a lot wasn't the same? And so that's what an evaluation does. It helps the teacher to understand, even though this kid is doing this, what is happening that's causing it. When you get an evaluation done, that is all in the report. The challenges your child is going to face and what should be done about it. So I want to say to any parent who has decided that, no, now is not the time to get an evaluation, to reconsider, because that might be an issue that is holding your child back and making them not want to go to school. Now, the next one is writing excuses for absences. Of course, it seems like you shouldn't do that. But why are parents doing that? Because you want to protect your kid. You don't want them to suffer the consequence of maybe, be kept back. And so we understand that. But without allowing this process to happen, then the school doesn't know exactly where your child is. They don't know how hard they're struggling to get to school. And so, because it makes it just seem that they're okay. So we want to encourage parents to go ahead, let the school know that your child is not going because they are resisting and you don't know what to do about it. The third thing is making home comfortable. Well, we get this too, because when you are ready to go out the door and your child is refusing to go, of course, you're like, if they have to stay home, you don't want them to get in trouble. And so you make home comfortable, or even if you're at home, you don't want them to be bothering you. You need to do what you need to do. And so that is a mistake. And we want to just encourage you that the sooner you change these things, the easier or the better they will be in terms of getting out of the house and back in school. And then the last one is, of course, as parents, we think we should have the answers for our kids and how to raise them and how to keep them on track. But there are times where we don't. We don't know what to do. And we need to lean on community. It is okay to ask other parents. You may know someone who has a child who has struggled, or just going to the school counselor and saying, this is the situation, I don't know what to do. It is important that you work with the school. So if you haven't yet told your child's teacher or counselor, we just recommend that you start here. Any of these that are issues that you can identify with, we want you to consider making those changes. In the book, we've also listed many other reasons why parents do what they do, and we understand those things, but how those affect school refusal is really what we want you to understand, that even though it's well-intentioned, it's having an adverse effect on your child.
And sure, I'll tell you, I think all of these. So, okay. So as an audience, we'd like you to kind of reflect now, based on the key facts that you learned about school refusal and some ways that, as a parent, you may be fanning the flames of your child's school refusal, or if you're an educator on this line, you can relate to what you see in your support of families. But as a reflection now for that first chunk of information, we'd like you to reflect on what did you find interesting, helpful, or surprising about the information so far? And so what we would like you to do is reflect on that and put your responses in the chat so we can kind of reflect together on this first part that we've had. And Diana, could you help us in the chat as people bring in their responses or type in their responses?
Absolutely.
Great. And as people are starting to brainstorm a little bit, one reflection I had as a parent was we had moved schools, and my daughter had always struggled in her spelling. And I had kind of said, oh, it's just she doesn't really need to know how to spell. And she was well behaved in school, but she was really struggling. And I was hesitant to get educational evaluation for her because I thought the school environment had to change for her. So that was one step that we took, which I'll share about later, that really helped our family get our daughter back in school.
Some of the responses coming in, so helpful to hear that you recommend doing evaluations for your child.
Mm-hmm.
Another, the courage it takes to reach out for help, because sometimes parents put so much pressure on themselves. Another, I felt reassured that I made the right decision in reaching out to the school and being honest about our struggle getting to school. Hearing that anxiety is mentioned. And I'm so glad to know that I'm not alone in navigating this.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
All right. Well, thank you so much for those of you that shared and being vulnerable. It is an experience as a parent that can create a lot of emotion. And that's what we're going to kind of step into next. In part two, oh yeah, go ahead, Shura.
Interrupt for a second, because I want to speak to that bravery, the courage it takes to step out. And that when anyone who is on this call and recognizing that you're struggling, that hopefully I want to challenge you that when you get through this stage, that you will share your story with others. Because Katie is on here today with no agenda other than to help parents. She does not do work in this area. She just shares her story. And because of her willingness to share, so many other parents and school counselors and teachers have better understood school refusal and are making changes. So I just wanted to add that in. After you gain the courage and you do the steps to get through this, please consider sharing your story with others.
All right, well, let's dive into my story, sure. Okay. I'm going to share a little bit about the emotions that I felt as a parent. And I'm just going to read a quote from one of the chapters in our book. I'm going to move the picture on my screen. Sorry, so I can read it. All right. I could feel the frustration rise in my throat. It was another morning and my daughter wasn't attending school again. My chest tightened as the clock ticked past 8:45 a.m. I watched as the other neighborhood children headed to school. And for me, the experience of my daughter not going to school created a lot of shame. I thought, obviously I was like this teacher who helped other kids, and what's going on in my family? How come my daughter isn't going to school? So I felt shame as a parent. I felt like I should be able to do this. How come the mom across the street, like she seemed like she got all her kids to school? How come my kid wasn't going to school? I also felt a lot of anger at my daughter. I was like, this is something you're supposed to do. How come you're not getting out of bed and going to school? I also felt a lot of resentment. I felt a lot of resentment at my husband because I worked from home and he had the job that took him out of the house. And so I was often left with the responsibility of trying to get our daughter to school. And so that mix of emotions, was something that I was experiencing throughout my daughter's bout with school refusal. But a turning point came one day. And it was a morning. I had canceled a meeting that I had to have because my daughter was refusing to go to school and I was trying to get her out the door. And I think because I had canceled that meeting, I felt like I had a little bit more time, maybe a little bit more patience. And I had remembered talking to Sharoya earlier in the week, and she had said something that stuck in my head. She said, Katie, you have to connect the dots. And so I was brushing my teeth and my daughter came into my room and kind of plopped on my bed. And with that more calm demeanor and with that echo of Sharoya's connect the dots in my head, I went over and I laid on the bed next to my daughter and kind of rubbed her back and was like, Monia, what's going on? And it was in that moment that my daughter shared what was going on with her at school. And it was a mixture of bullying that was going on. It was a mixture of her feeling really like she couldn't keep up academically. She had a strong fear of just not being able to be at school and be what she wanted to be at school. And in that moment, I recognized that she wasn't being manipulative and she wasn't just trying to be lazy like I thought. What she was experiencing was really intense emotions, and she didn't know how to move through those emotions. But I think as a parent, my initial reaction was to protect her then. I was like, oh, that's awful. Like, I started to blame the school. I was like, oh, the school isn't providing what she needs. I started to be like, oh, if she doesn't feel good in the morning, well, why don't you just stay home and you can do your work virtually, and then that will be okay. And my husband had the opposite reaction. He's like, no, she should go to school. And if she doesn't go to school, she should get this taken away, this taken away, this taken away. I also let her be on her iPad when she was home. That was, and so we were really stuck as a couple, because in one of the conversations that we had with our daughter, I asked her, I said, well, would you like to do homeschooling? Would you like to, we had the resources to be able to do homeschooling, or would, I was trying to brainstorm with her and she said, no, Mom, I want to go to school. She wanted to be with her friends. It was just a matter of how to give her the skills she needed and our family the skills that we needed to help her. And my husband and I, we didn't know what to do. We were stuck. Oops. Oh, Sheree, you're muted.
Sorry, everybody. I want to make sure you don't hear any background noise, but I just admire your transparency, and even to the point of just saying how different you approach the situation and your husband, and it caused friction, and how necessary it is to get on the same page. So I want to share two other situations, because over the years I've been working with families, I noticed a trend. And parents often diagnose the root of the problem by simply looking at their child's external behavior, like they're defiant, they're depressed, they're bored, there's some bullying happening, or they just are, have some academic challenges. But unfortunately, parents are not realizing that there's more than meets the eye when their child is refusing to go to school. In order to get a clear understanding of what is going on with their children, they must ask well-constructed questions to find out their child's inner thoughts. That means their emotions. That means, what are they telling themselves? Understanding a child's inner happenings is vital to determining the source of their school refusal. When I look back over my school refusal cases, two families stand out to me. In family number one, the mom had a teenage son who played video games all night. So the story she told me was, my son is defiant. I've tried to take his game away, but he blows up. I'm sure he's addicted to gaming, she said. But remember what I said. It's always more than meets the eye. Yes, gaming was a trigger that made him more susceptible to missing school. But the key question was, why? Why was he gaming? Not why was he missing school? That was my job, to help mom figure out, why was he gaming so much? When the mom collected the necessary data on his gaming, the root cause began to be revealed. Her adopted son was struggling with an attachment disorder that she was unaware of. Yes, the gaming affected his attendance, but at the core, her son was struggling with something much more intense. In family number two, they had an elementary school age daughter who was neurodivergent. She loved to stay home from school and read. She had a superb support system at school. And during my collaboration with the school's MTSS team, I was impressed by their commitment to do everything possible to motivate this child to get to school. Unfortunately, their efforts didn't move the bar much. The story the parents were telling me was, our daughter struggles academically. She's neurodivergent and feels like a failure. Okay, I said, that makes sense. But let's take some data on when your child goes to school without any resistance. After examining the data, I noticed one parent worked outside the home long hours and regularly missed breakfast and dinner with the kids. That's when the root of the problem started to emerge. When I helped the parents restructure their family time, the daughter's school refusal suddenly reduced and continued to dwindle for the remainder of the school year. The child's school refusal appeared to be escape-based, meaning she didn't want to go to school because she wanted to avoid doing the math, the science, whatever that caused her difficulty. But this wasn't the case. In actuality, the child wanted more time with her mom. It is rare for a child to say, oh, I want to stay home because I want to spend more time with you, Mom. That's not how our kids articulate. What they do is shut down and just decide, I'm going to stay home, and they might not even be aware of why they're resisting going to school, because their connection is not as strong as they want it to be. So it's critical for parents to pause and dig deeper into their child's inner happenings. And here's what I've learned after working with families around the globe. The root cause of school refusal is almost always related to two things. Number one, a child feeling a loss of connection. That's either to their parents, to their teachers, to their friends. Somehow the kid is not feeling like they are attached to the world that they're in. And that causes them to disengage. Number two is a child dealing with an undiagnosed psychological or educational issue, as we mentioned in the beginning. It's truly hard to find out what the root cause is without gathering data. So how in the world are parents supposed to do it? Here's the answer. One step at a time. There is no quick fix, but I want to pause before we go into Q&A and read to you a passage, one of my favorite passages from the book that we've written called Help, My Kid Won't Go to School. It is on page 1. It goes like this. Dealing with school refusal and your child's emotional challenges is frustrating, confusing, and exhausting. It makes sense to want to throw blame at yourself or the child. But your child's challenges aren't your fault. It isn't their fault either. It's life's way of saying, slow down. Your child needs you. They need you to show up in different ways than they've needed you before. What worked when they were younger will not work now. So in this book, we show you how school refusal is the complex interaction of multiple factors in your child's life and how small tweaks, I'm going to say that again, small tweaks in your parenting can help your child get back to school. All right, now it's time for Q&A. Please write your questions in the chat, and Diana is going to read them. And we also had some questions we received in advance, so we'll go through those as well.
Sheree, would you like me to take the slides down, or should we?
Yes, please.
Yep. Okay. Here we go.
So while participants are taking some time to type, I can start with some of the questions that were submitted during the registration.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question is how to handle when everything seems fine until 30 minutes before the bus or the student becomes extremely emotional, crying, saying they don't know what's upsetting them, and unable to go out the door. Many times academics and social life seems okay.
Yeah, I can just relate to that as a parent. Oftentimes for us, it would show up as, oh, my hair doesn't look right, or I don't have the right outfit. But it was something, as Sharoya said, deeper than that. And so for our family, one of the strategies we used was to kind of cope ahead the night before. So we would be talking about, okay, tomorrow, is school, maybe something that was going to go on at school, as well as what was going to happen after school. We'd also kind of talk through, okay, what are you going to wear tomorrow? What's your hair going to be like? Or, talk through some things that could become barriers for our daughter, but really connecting the night before over what school was going to be like the next day, as well as problem solving ahead of time, any kind of like outfit issues or whatever really helped our family. I think it was that connection time, that purposeful connection time, as well as helping our daughter problem solve. Sharoya, would you add on to? Yeah.
Sure. I think parents, you have to really think in advance, like what is their motivator? So if it's going to, let's say, basketball practice, even though basketball practice might not happen that day, we talk about this in the book about how to lay a plan out in advance. When you go to school, this will happen. You will be able to go to your basketball practice on a regular basis. When you choose not to go to school, then we will have to make sure that you do not attend basketball practice. So our language is very important. So helping them understand that it's a choice, right? So in the morning, you just want to reiterate the choice that they have. When you go to school, this is happening. When you don't, this will happen. And you can say, and I really want you to go to basketball. So can you make this choice today? It we are not going to tell you there's a miracle, but what I want to share with you is the calmer you are in that 30 minutes, the more responsive they're going to be. And if you have a plan, like when you do this, they can hear it and they can in that moment know what the consequence is going to be. So I want to just say, reiterate what Katie has said, cope ahead, get that plan in place, and then also make sure they know what the outcomes will be for their choices.
So
Katie,
we
you're
have,
on mute.
oh,
Sure. I just want to add on to what Shroya said, that when you go to school, you get this. When you don't go to school, this happens, was really an effective like sentence structure for our family to use with our daughter on that day. Because I think that, like Shroya said, it becomes very clear to the child then it's their choice. So their sense of efficacy is within themselves. They are going to be making that choice, and that just builds on itself, and that helps empower the child eventually. Yes.
so we've had a question come in, and this parent is asking, we're having trouble getting onto the bus. It's not always conducive to do kiss and ride though. I have a first grader and she says it's too loud and the kids are mean.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And because multiple people are involved there, right? There's no control over what kids say. But I would definitely figure out what is does the school bus driver know? Can we talk to the school bus driver and get a plan that your child sits a particular place? Really trying to work with that school bus driver in any way you can. And then recognizing what skill does your child need to tone out the noise. Is it because I don't know if they can use earbuds or whatever, but just the simple things, what could make it a little bit easier for them not to hear all of that stimulation?
Or I'm thinking too, Shreya, a distract, if earbuds or something to cancel out the noise is there like a coloring sheet, like those maze type ones, so that the distraction away from those thoughts and that sensory input could be put into something else.
Great.
Yeah.
So we have another question that's coming through the Q&A.
Great.
It says, this is so helpful and thank you. The question is, can you talk a little more about the challenge of tolerating discomfort, both for parents and kids? Sometimes we parents want to get rid of all the discomfort, and this fans the
Amen.
flame that you mentioned earlier.
Oh my goodness, yes. You just want to take that pain away from your kid. And what I think a real important skill, and we can talk about this in part 3, that our family learned is the validation of the emotion. It makes sense that it makes sense that the bus is really uncomfortable because it's so loud. And I know you can be on the bus and handle hard things. It's that, and that as a parent you can use with your child when you want to validate the pain, the suffering, the discomfort, and let them know that they can problem solve, they can go through that experience, because that builds resilience.
And I think it's important for us to think long term. And where are we trying to go? We want to make sure that even though chronic absenteeism, it doesn't, school refusal doesn't last long. I mean, when you're in it, it feels like forever. We have to remember that it's short term. And long term, we want to make sure our kids don't feel like we're mad at them, we're angry, we're disappointed. So we have to be careful to keep our cool during these times of struggle and discomfort. And remembering that we're actually modeling what we do when we're just, in tension, the way we talk, the way we keep ourselves composed. Our kids are looking at that and they're taking away that skill. So if you can help yourself, remind yourself, how do I want my kid to behave as an adult? Then that kind of triggers you and goes, okay, remain calm.
So we've had another question come into the chat. Attention is an issue for my kid in school, and the teacher has to redirect him to keep him working on his independent work. The redirection or being called out bothers my kid. How can we help him through this?
Again, helping him understand that he has choices, right? So making a goal where he can, you'll ask him, like, how many times does the teacher have to redirect you, do you think? And just helping them get sensitized, like how often, how irritating it might be for you to have to redirect me to pay attention to you in a day. But it's okay. Like, this is a skill we got to work on. And so him setting a goal, like, okay, I'm going to try that she won't have to say it to me but 4 times today. Like if I can get it just to 4. So helping it be more like a game, but helping him understand he has an ability to change the situation. It's not just happening to him.
Yes.
There's something in his behavior that's prompting it. And if he can change that, this won't happen as much.
So another question is about neurodivergent students. Can you talk about how this approach differs with neurodivergent students?
Okay, I want to take this one because what I want to really say, neurodivergent is not a root cause of school refusal. What it is the lens in which you look at it. So if I'm working with a family whose child has selective mutism, like, of course they don't want to go to school because it's really hard when you don't want to talk and you have to be in school and answer questions. But that's not the reason, right? The reason is he doesn't have the skill yet to handle that. And it's anxiety-based. That this doctor has already mentioned that. So every step of the way, medicine is supporting this child. What you call exposure therapy. But when I come in, I'm working with the family just to say, okay, we have these in place. You're going to remain consistent with implementing these things and doing the hard thing, making him go, even when it pains you to see your child suffer. But understanding that it's developing a skill in them. So if there's no difference, you really just have to figure out what skill is it that they need and which skills can they actually do. There's some things that, a child with autism cannot do. So we cannot have that as a part of the plan, but we really look at the things that they're really good at. So for instance, this kid with selective mutism, they talked at home. So then they just got the mom to come to the school, for a week, every single day, just sitting in the class and he with the teacher, not the kids. So they exposed him little by little by little. So that's what we do in terms of what I do in terms of work I do. It's trying to figure out, what can this kid do? and doing little by little to help them feel comfortable about going to school.
Mhm. And Sheree, I like how you also talked about how it was a collaborative approach with if there's any outside professionals as well as the classroom teacher. When the child feels like everyone's on the same page and providing a layer of support, then it stays consistent for the child. And I think that helps with the skill building as well. Yeah.
Would you like to continue with questions? We have a few more that have come in.
Yeah, let's take another one.
Yeah.
Okay. So this question is, can you talk a little about partnering with the school nurse regarding any health issues and or mental health issues that could be contributing to the root cause?
Yeah, I can start with that one. I think it's really important that there is that collaboration with the school. And for me, what I found is that it was most helpful for me to collaborate directly with the person at the school that I had the best relationship with, or I had already established a relationship with. So for me, I had a relationship with the school counselor. And so the school counselor kind of became the point person for me as a parent to help. Like, for example, if my daughter's school refusal was mental health based as well. And so when there was something going on for my daughter and I needed to communicate it to the school, I would communicate it through the school counselor, and then the school counselor would support my daughter in the ways that she needed to during the school day, as well as share the information that needed to be shared with her teachers. So if your child's school refusal is mental health based and you feel like the school nurse is the best person for you as a parent to be communicating with, then that school nurse can become your point person as a parent, because it can get overwhelming as a parent, because you get the school attendance line, like sending you the thing, your kid isn't in school again. Then you get the note from your teacher, like, oh, is so-and-so okay? And it's just like, ugh, like it's already stressful enough. So having like that one point person as a parent that you already have a good relationship with in the school environment, and then that person, if it's the nurse, if it's a counselor, if it's your child's general ed teacher, special ed teacher, then they can help liaise with the other teachers or supports in the school environment. I found that to be really helpful to me as a parent as I was going through school refusal.
Katie, and to pick back on that again, that homeschool, I want everyone just to consider writing what I'm about to say. I think in working with the question about the bus driver, the school nurse, here's what I would like parents to consider saying to a school official, is simply saying, my child is experiencing this, or my child tells me they're experiencing this. What are you seeing? Without a whole bunch of explanation, just start there. And then listen to what they say, and then ask them, is there anything you would suggest that I do? That can give you a good starting point without you having to try to figure things out. Just go and find out. One is what your child is experiencing. Is anyone noticing that? Or are they seeing something different? And then two, what suggestions can you gain from them? And I think that can really help you to know where to start to put your attention, your focus.
All right. Diana, are there other questions, or Sharia, should we go into the learning new skills? What do you think?
So what do we still have 30 minutes?
We have about 2 more that have come in, but we can certainly save those till the end or do them now.
You can do them now, right?
Yeah, that's great. Great.
Okay, the one says, what do you do when your child has a counter argument for every suggestion you give for options to school refusal? We basically have a mini lawyer.
Oh yeah, I know that. I can relate. And what a great skill. What a great way for your child to always be thinking about their thinking. I have a child like that. For me, what helped for our family, what helped is that language we talked about before. When you go to school, you get this. When you don't go to school, this is what happens. So it's the consequence. So the consequence can either be rewarding. When you go to school, you get to go to basketball practice, or it could be deterring. When you don't go to school, you don't get to go to basketball practice. For us, it was really that iPad really helped. When you go to school, you get your iPad time after, when you get home from school. If you don't go to school, you won't have your iPad during the school day, and you won't have your iPad after school. And then walking away. Because what those kids like to do, that like to argue, is that reinforces their behavior because you're giving them attention. You lay it out. When you go to school, you get this. When you don't go to school, this is what happens. And then you walk away. Sure.
Katie, you know how I feel. It's
Okay.
you have to say what you mean
Yeah.
what you say, and walk out the room.
Yeah.
No discussion, and you don't even have to. I'll throw this in as a bonus because the kids, when they're like, well, can I go back to that analogy or situation with going to basketball practice? When basketball practice happens and they're like, well, can I go? Can I go? Your answer, you're just going to say, did you go to school yesterday? And you stop right there and you walk out the room.
And that's hard, Sharoya, because there can be a lot of blowback. There can be
Yes.
throwing, there can be yelling.
But when you walk out the room, you're saying, I trust that you're going to figure this out. You're going to get through this. And I know it's hard, but this is one of the things that we have to stop doing, is giving that attention when they're not deserving of your time. Mm-hmm. You've already given the time to spend with them, and think about it that way. You've used your time, you've planned with your kid, you've come all these solutions, you've done what you're supposed to do as a parent. So it's time for you to walk out the door and for them to work this all out within themselves. Remember, if there's no one there to argue with, the argument stops. So
totally.
Okay, last question, Diana.
So the last question says, do you have suggestions for a student with ADHD and ASD who will not take anxiety or ADHD medication? School is super helpful.
Meaning school is super helpful in supporting them?
I believe that's what that's saying, that the school is being helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so again, this is a behavior that rests on the child. And so I think with the same thing, have they made the connection that it's helpful? Because again, in order for us to do something, be consistent with it, we have to see that it has benefits. So that would be the first thing. Let's take this and see if there's some benefits for this today. And if it's, and what are the side effects maybe that they're resisting, because that also is legitimate. So really, again, no quick fix, because this is experimental. You're going to have to figure out if, he takes the medication this day, how things turned out. And if there are no benefits, of course, then you got to go back to the drawing board with the medication. So understand there's many steps to figuring out why he's not taking it and what is needed for him to take it. But the thing that is going to make him take it is that he sees a benefit. And that also, unfortunately, if you have to hold, like say you can't do an activity for not taking medication, I don't really like that. I really would like for him to see the benefits of taking medication. And that might mean you say to him, your behavior is a little bit too wild, or whatever the case may be, for you to participate in this activity. But I've noticed that when you take the medication, you can. So that would be a benefit.
All right. Well, let's get into the last part of our presentation today then, which is about learning new skills and how, as a family, learning new skills really helped our daughter get back to school. Is that, Troy, is that where we should go? Is that where you're
Yes.
thinking we can go? Okay. We wanted to kind of get a feel of you guys and like what your needs are and what the questions were, so we could kind of frame this last part. So we're going to skip over that and learning new skills. I wanted to share another quote from the book, because I think this is really real for a lot of parents who may be experiencing school refusal. All right, so yelling, using force, enabling, and eating a pan of brownies didn't help me get my daughter to school. It actually made the situation worse. However, these behaviors were and are the hardest for me to change because I've used them for many years and they help me feel better in the moment. But these behaviors also kept me from being the parent I wanted to be. So, for example, like let's say my daughter wasn't going to school, and she was blowing up at me and doing that argumentative stuff, and I'd be like, fine, just, whatever. And then she'd have her iPad. That was not helpful behavior for me to have at all. So I had to learn a set of new skills. And so as I mentioned before in the beginning part of this presentation, my husband and I really approached this differently. I tended to enable my daughter, kind of coddle her, whereas my husband wanted to pile on consequences and became more harsh and punitive. And so for us, my husband and I were blaming each other. And so our first step was really getting on the same page and getting clear about what our boundaries were going to be for our daughter. And the first step in that was doing some family therapy. We needed to reach out to get support for this. And through our family therapy, we used dialectic behavioral therapy, the child model, which is an excellent way to learn new skills. And what we learned how to do as a family is to move through those really strong emotions that we were experiencing. And so for my husband and I, we really learned how to, instead of blowing up at each other and fighting, we learned how to take a break and kind of come back to the discussion later. We also learned how to, as a couple, do that language that we were talking about before. When you go to school, you get this. When you don't go to school, this happens, and walk out the door. And that was a real game changer for us. I think I wanted to believe that the more that I tried, the more that my daughter would be able to go to school. But it was actually the opposite. As Sharoya has mentioned, as I've talked about, the child needs to feel that sense of that locus of control within themselves and recognize they're making a choice about going to school or not going to school. And then the last thing I would say that we really had to work on as a family to learn new skills was creating stronger bonds as a family. I think, this is really common. Northern Virginia, everybody's working, it's really busy. And our daughter needed more connection time with each of my husband and myself. And so we made it a priority to create family rituals and spend more time together to create those stronger bonds. And I think that as we started to learn these new skills is when our daughter really started to turn things around. And in fact, in our book, I mentioned that when I asked my daughter, what helped you the most? And she's like, seeing you and daddy not fight as much. And I was like, what? But I think it was contributing to some of her anxiety and some of her not feeling connected, alongside, what was going on for her academically and needing to get the educational evaluation. So Sharoya, can you help us as parents understand how can we start to develop new skills to help our kids?
Oh, Katie, there's a slide. Can you bring
Yep.
back compass statement?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
talk about this.
Yep.
Sometimes it's hard to find our way when we just don't know where we're trying to go. And again, as I mentioned earlier, because school refusal, it can be there's so much tension, and you can say some things some days that you don't want to say. It's very important for you to just take a moment. I do this with all my clients, to just figure out, what do you want your child to say in the long run? So just imagine, I want everybody to participate in this one. We're going to take a time, it'll go a little quiet for you to type in the chat, but or write it down. We really prefer you write it so that you can keep it for yourself, because imagine your child is 30 years old and they're no longer, of course, struggling with school refusal, but you overhear them talking to someone about the way you treated them during school refusal. What would you want them to say? And so we have this here for you. It says, write a compass statement from your perspective. If you're a teacher, you're a student, a parent, a counselor, please write down, when your blank turns 30, what do you want them to say about the way you respond to them during their bout with school refusal? I'm sorry, you're not supposed to write that part. You just write, my mom, blank, blank, blank. My dad, blank, blank, blank.
Yeah, and I'll say, for me, my compass statement, and Shoria, this really helped me too in the heat of the moment, because you want to scream at your child, you want to scream at whoever's in the house with you. But that doesn't help your child get to school. So grounding myself in this compass statement of, I wanted my daughter to say, my mom understood me and helped me go through those strong emotions and get to school. Because I know that's what she wanted. She wants to get to school. It's just getting through those strong emotions. Yeah.
Excellent. Diana, can you read them as they pop up for us?
Sure. So the first one says, that was really hard, and I didn't know I was strong enough to get through it, but my school team helped me learn new skills that have made me a stronger person in the long run.
Great. Yes.
Well, for me, I would want my son to say, my mom was firm, yet she was my biggest advocate. Because I have a son who was identified as having ADHD, and it took a lot because the school he went to, we lived in Zambia, East Africa at the time, or Southern Africa, and it didn't have a lot of resources, and teachers really didn't have a lot of skills to handle it. But I went there and I just said, how can I be of help? My son is struggling. Is there anything I can do to help him? Is there anything I can do to help you? And he saw that, and I have to say, he has been very appreciative of the time and the effort that we took to help him through that difficult time in his school career.
So there's another response that's come through the chat. My mom tried to help me learn the skills I needed to manage those strong emotions and stayed calm and was loving and kind.
Yes.
Great.
Great.
I
Yeah.
love that. I'm hearing all these
Yes,
skills.
exactly. Right.
Anybody else? Okay. Then we can move on to the last slide.
Oops, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. Just a second. You see my desktop? Okay. Okay.
Okay. I want to say this, that even though it's about parents using new skills, it's not about parents using new skills and teaching new skills. It's about parents demonstrating
Yes.
how to use their social emotional growth and
Mhm.
solve this problem, because that is the goal. We're just saying to listen, life is hard, and we have things that we can do to make changes, small tweaks to our behavior, because that's what we need to ask of our kids. No big change, just a small change today. So it's about having productive conversations. I know one of the things, like, parents go, well, I keep asking my kid and they say nothing. So it's not about asking, like, why aren't you going to school? Why aren't you doing this? It's just letting them know that you see a few things. Like, I see that you are getting, like, your mood is changing at nighttime when, so and so doesn't call you. And that it makes sense that you don't want to go to school because you don't know perhaps how that person is going to treat you the next day. So letting them know what you're seeing in their behavior and how it's changing. And then empathizing and just saying that, yeah, if I were your age and this person wasn't talking to me, I wouldn't want to go to school either. Like, that makes sense. It is important for you, even if you don't understand, just to be in your child's world and recognize from their perspective. That makes it, you guys know, like, if you are upset and you're just telling someone about what you're upset about and they're looking at you with a blank stare, like, that shouldn't bother you.
You're right.
It's how you feel. But if they just go, yeah, that makes sense, pipe down. So in the morning, in the 30 minutes when time is stressed, like, sweetheart, it makes sense that you don't want to rush. It makes sense that you don't want to brush your teeth. Um, yeah, and I just don't want us to move forward this way with all of this tension. So you want to go right on into, I don't want, and it's about, I don't want your life to be impeded. I don't want you to have to stay home from basketball practice. Use the thing that you know they want to do and let them know you don't want to keep them from it. That's going to get their ears open. And so then you're just going to then flip it. I do want you to go to basketball practice and I do want you to go to school. So what can we do? And this is the part where you're going to be planning ahead the night before. What can we do? And allow your kids to just tell them, come up with some brilliant ideas, whatever. Just let's write all your ideas down for what we can do to make this thing better. And then you're going to say, I can do this. I'm willing to do this. We agree to this. I can do this step. So this is a formula to just getting your child to be receptive to what you're saying. And of course, you can't do this every single day. But this is like, you take your kid out, you have a good time with them, bring them, I like to have conversations in the restaurant because they're not going to act crazy. But you can then talk about this. I see this is happening. It makes sense, but I don't want you to miss out on the things you want to do. But I do want to make sure you are doing the things that you need to do to be successful in life. So what's the planning part? And then you're going to make a commitment to what you can do and follow through.
And for us, Sharoya, those first two steps, I see and I empathize, am I on mute? No. Were the most important, because when your child is going through school refusal, you want to look at them like, what are you doing? You can't just lay there in bed. But that validation that comes from, it makes sense. You don't want to go to school because, so-and-so said that on Snapchat last night, and you're worried about who you're going to sit with at lunch today. I don't want you to miss out on, your iPad time after school, like for my daughter it was. I do want you to have that time after school with your iPad or whatever it is. And let's problem solve. What can you do at lunchtime today to help you when you're not sure who's going to sit with you at lunch? And that kind of productive conversation really helps your child feel understood and helps them develop the skills they need to get through those strong emotions. Yeah.
And I want to just say, like, for that delayed gratification and distress tolerance, it's good
Yes.
for the parent to set a goal for themselves. It's
Yes.
for the child. So, like, after the plan, there can be like, okay, let's set a goal. Like, I can take you to the movies this weekend. And then what are you going to do for yourself? You set a goal for yourself. In the book, we really are big on this of how are you going to really encourage yourself through this process. So what goal can you set? Like, I remain calm 3 days this week.
Yeah.
I am going to not cook dinner this
Right.
on Friday night. Whatever your thing is that you want to do a splurge, we encourage you to think on those things because you deserve it. You deserve it. Parenting is hard work, and there's no quick fix. So if you put in the work, do reward yourself.
Yeah. And I just want to tell one more story. Freshman year this year, my daughter didn't want to go to school. I don't have anything to wear, it's anxiety. I was able to validate, but then I lost it. I completely lost it. I was like, how can you not go to school? It's like freshman year. So it's also like, and then I was able to be like, oh, whoa, sorry. Okay. It's that repair that you can do with your child as well. Because some days you're not going to be able to remain calm. And I remember, Shreya, you and I spoke that day, and you're like, Katie, write a little note to your daughter. We did it, even though it was messy or something like that. And it was that small win, how we were able to celebrate. Yeah, she got to school freshman year. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but we did it. And it's that celebrating those small wins together too, which I think can really help keep you going during these hard times. So our last thing today, we just want you to reflect as a parent, how do you think that learning these new parenting skills and modeling them, learning them yourself, modeling them for your child can help get your child back to school? Or maybe you've already experienced this as a parent. You've already tried to learn some new ways of interacting with the other caregivers in your house or how you respond to your child. How have you seen that help your child get back to school? So in the chat, if you want to share a few thoughts there.
Did we miss? I want to say, Katie, remind me, what did your daughter do with that little note that you
She
wrote?
put it on her little vanity.
Yes. So I want to just say how important it is for when your child makes that little bit of growth for you to acknowledge it. And the best way to acknowledge it is often not by talking to them directly. By leaving a little note lets them know that you saw it, that them know that you saw it, and also that you're not like demanding a response from them. So don't even mention the note. So if your child goes to school one day and gave less resistance in the morning, you're just going to write a little note and say, wow, did you notice this morning was a little bit easier for us all? And that's it, with a smiley face.
Yeah.
Okay, Diana, do we have any responses or any questions?
So No responses in the chat, but the Q&A is still open. So if anyone would like to type in questions, feel free to do that. I do have some questions from registration. If you'd like me to read some more of those, just let me know.
Okay, sure. Because we want to make sure people who are listening and the recording get the benefit as well.
Sure. So one of those questions is, how do we explain the value of classes and education to children? How do we recover when we fall behind and are embarrassed?
Well, I think the question about the importance of education is a good one, because nowadays, so many of the kids are seeing influencers and they see that they're making a lot of money and they go, well, I don't really need a full education, college and high school. I can just do YouTube videos. And so there is a need for kids to understand, where does education fit in their lives? And one of the activities I suggest is really just asking your child what kind of job do they want to do, or they're thinking about, and really trying to give them opportunities to be engaged with someone in that career, and helping that, and them asking that person, what do you wish you would have done differently in school, and letting them share their story. We learn so much when people share their stories with us. So I think just stopping trying to lecture a child and really trying to immerse them in the world that they're trying to go to. So helping them connect the dots, how this is important in the long run. And then, of course, they're going to probably be some sarcasm like, well, I've never seen a chef use geometry, but then we just have to talk about their points that we have to make on our way to something. And if we're trying to get to that destination, then those points matter. So I hope that helps. Katie, any other insight?
I would just say too, just if there is consistent academic struggle, really talking to your child's teachers about, could there be a barrier, a learning difference getting in the way of your child being able to access the curriculum, and ensuring that at school there is someone that is supporting your child to make progress, because that could feel really overwhelming for a child if they feel like they've gotten so behind and they don't have someone at school that can kind of help them break down those assignments and get back on track. So as a parent, just ensuring that there might not be a need for an educational evaluation, and ensuring that your child has a point person at school that is kind of helping them chip away at those assignments or getting back on track.
Diana, what was the last part to that question?
How do we recover when we fall behind and are embarrassed?
Yeah.
Oh, for school, yeah.
Yeah.
Really checking to see if there's a learning difference there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another question that seems very applicable to this week's situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we use weekly countdowns when there is school, and it has helped, but during long breaks, it can be difficult to get him wanting to go. Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, this is really where goal setting happens, and whatever the cushiness of home is,
Yes,
that you're going to like pull it away days before school, and you let them know this is not punishment, but this is really a skill, like to help motivate you and us. Like, you have to let them know that you too, when there's something you don't want to do, have to find something to motivate you. So letting them know, even you can just say after the first day, if just take, for example, the iPad, right? You take it away on a Sunday, you go to school on Monday, you can have double time on Monday, because I know how challenging it is. But when you succeed, it's okay to reward yourself. So really helping them set a goal days before they have to go. Let them know do they have a strategy? Do they have a plan? Because you want to work with what they think first. And if they're successful, please make sure you reinforce that with something that you know they enjoy.
Yeah, for our family, for our daughter, the reinforcement was often a favorite snack. So a favorite snack that she knew she was looking forward to once she got home from school. So, yeah.
So I know you have a few more slides you'd like to share, and we're running close on time. So
yeah, I think for us now, we just want to ensure that our participants have the support that they need, and that please check out our book on Amazon. We have the QR code here that you can read the reviews from parents, from educators, and how helpful it's been both to the experience of going through school refusal and practical strategies that you can use at home to help your child get back to school. And also, we want to offer to families that if you're needing more support, that reaching out to parent coach Shoroya Ham to schedule a complimentary coaching session, or to join our next school refusal parent cohort, which unfortunately we aren't going to be able to start until August, but it's often a time where school refusal will pop back up, and the parent cohort will provide that additional layer of support and connection to help parents whose children may experience school refusal.
thank you both so much. We really appreciated all of this wonderful information. And we will be sending out the recording of this presentation as well as the slides next week when they become available. I also would like to share that the Family Resource Center is going to be having another webinar about school refusal in March. So please keep an eye out for that. It'll be Dr. Jonathan Dalton, the director of the Center for Anxiety and Behavioral Health in Rockville, Maryland. So please, participants, keep your eye out for our March webinars and be sure to sign up for that. Thank you both again so much for being here. We appreciate you, and thank you to all the participants for being on the call today.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.